विष्णुपाद Shritar Srila Bhaktivedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Nitil Bhavishta Maha-Bhagavat Srila Sai. I looked at my messages. Let me start a little bit earlier. Nitil Bhavishta Mishupara Shritar Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Nitil Bhavishta Mishupara Shritar Srila Bhakti Vigyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Nitil Bhavishta Mishupara Shritar Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada ki jai. Nitil Pravishta Maha-Bhagavat Srila Gokshara Babaji Maharaj ki jai. Nitil Pravishta Srila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur ki jai. Nitil Pravishta Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj ki jai. Shri Rupano Gauriya Guru Varga ki jai. Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhattara Gurunath Shri Jiva Gopal Patadasha Gurunath Swami Prabhu ki jai. Shri Sarup Damodar Rai Ramanandari Shri Gaur Parshad Vrinda ki jai. नाम अक्षय श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जाए। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासरी गौर भक्त वृंद की जाए। श्री क्षेत्र मंडल गौर मंडल व्रज मंडल मथुरा वृंदावन धाम की जाए। सर्व अभिष्ट प्रदात गिरिराज महाराज की जाए। श्री राधा कुंड श्याम कुंड की जाए। श्री मुनि देवी कंग देवी की जाए। श्री तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी की जाए। श्री भक्ति देवी की जय। श्री पूर्णमासी योगमाया की जय। श्री गोपेश्वर महादेव की जय। श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय। श्री नृसिंह भगवान की जय। भक्त प्रभा श्री प्रहलाद महाराज की जय। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद्-भागवतम की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। समागौर भक्त वृंद की जय। शिताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। ओम ज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जना शलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमः ॐ विष्णुपदाय राधिकाय प्रियात्मने श्रीमद्भक्तिवेदान्त नारायणीति नामिने। नमो ॐ विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। महावदन्याय कृष्णप्रेमप्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्णचैतन्य नाम्ने गौरतिशे नमः। नमो महावदन्याय कृष्णप्रेमप्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्णचैतन्य नाम्ने गौरतिशे नमः। गुरुवे गौरचन्द्राय राधिकाय तदालये कृष्णाय कृष्णभक्ताय तद्भक्ताय नमो नमः। यं प्रव्रजन्तम् अनुपेतमपेतकृत्यां द्वैपायनो विरहकातर आजुहाव पुत्रेति तन्मयतया तरवोऽभिनेदुस् तं सर्वभूतहृदयं मुनिमानतोऽस्मि। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। शृण्वतं स्वकथा कृष्ण पुण्यश्रवणकीर्तन हृदन्तस्तो ह्यभद्राणि विधुनोति सुहृत्सतम्। नष्टप्रायेष्वभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भागवत्युत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। तवैवास्मि न जीवामि त्वया विना इति विज्ञाय राधे त्वां नायमां चरणान्तिकम्। भक्त्या विहीना अपराधलक्षय क्षिप्ताष्टकामादितरङ्गमध्ये कृपां त्वं शरणं प्रपन्ना Vrinde namaste charana ravindam. Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Dandavat Pranams Rup Manjari, and happy birthday! Today is Rup Manjari's birthday, everybody. Pray for her that she can always get more and more taste for Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, chanting Harinam. Haribol. Okay, and Dandavat. Oh yeah, and Ganga Didi, I'm going to be traveling the day after tomorrow. Madhavi Didi, Dandavat Pranams, Prajumna Prabhu, and Mantar Murti Mataji. Haribol. Okay, so okay, I'm just going to, so yesterday we read all the prayers of, Nṛsiṁha. The demigods celebrate Lord Nṛsiṁha's victory, and then they offer prayers to Lord Nṛsiṁha, Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, King Indra, the sages, the Pitris, Siddhas, Vidyadharas, Nagas, Manus, Prajapatis, Gandharvas, Charanas, Yakshas, Kimpurushas, Matalikas, Kinnaras, and the associates of Lord Vishnu. They all offer their prayers. And then yesterday we began chapter 9. Prahlāda pacifies Lord Nṛsiṁha-deva with prayers. So when the demigods failed to appease Lord Nṛsiṁha, Prahlāda pacifies him with prayers. The demigods dared not to approach Lord Nṛsiṁha-deva at that time because he was absorbed in the mood of anger. Even Lakshmi couldn't approach the Lord, even though requested by the demigods, she said that she had never seen such an astonishing Mahar Adbhutam form before. Note, influence of Leela Shakti. The Lord has unlimited eternal Vaikuntha, and Lakshmi had certainly seen Nṛsiṁha in some previous kalpa. Her impression of not having previously seen or heard about this form is inspired by Leela Shakti, or the Lord's pastime potency, in order to make everyone taste Adbhut Ras, the mood of astonishment. Link. Lord Nṛsiṁha's anger couldn't be pacified by Brahma, Shiva, and even Lakshmi, because the Lord wanted to exhibit his affection for Prahlāda and give him the opportunity to pacify him. Brahma requested Prahlāda to go forward and appease the angry Lord Nṛsiṁha. Little Prahlāda proceeded toward the Lord and fell at his feet to offer obeisance. Lord Nṛsiṁha-deva's ecstatic affection for Prahlāda. Sapadamule patitam tam arbakam. When the small boy Prahlāda prostrated as of his lotus feet, Vilokya deva kripaya paripluta, Lord Nṛsiṁha-deva saw him and became overwhelmed with affection for him. Utapya tachrishna dadat karam bhujam. Raising Prahlāda, the Lord placed his hand on the boy's head, because kalahiv vitrasta dhyam krita bhayam, because his hand creates fearlessness to those whose minds are afraid of the snake of time. Prahlāda's symptoms of ecstasy. I'm just going to read the translation. By the touch of the Lord's hand, Prahlāda was completely freed of all material contamination. He immediately manifested realization of the Supreme Soul. In transcendental bliss, he captured the Lord's lotus feet within the core of his heart. His body showed ecstatic symptoms. His heart was softened with love, and his eyes with tears. began his prayers to Hari with a focused mind and full attention, with love and in a faltering voice, by fixing his heart and sight on Lord Nṛsiṁha. Prahlāda began his prayers to Sri Hari with focused mind, full intention, with love and in a faltering voice. Note, ability to fix one's mind upon the lotus feet is a result of yoga siddhi, attained when one is freed from all material diversions. Right, so now we're going to begin the prayers of Prahlāda Maharaj. Oh yeah, and also Dandavat Pranams to Raseshwari Mataji, who will be joining us shortly. She'll be watching. Okay. Prahlāda uvacha Pramadaya suragana munayo tasiddha Satvaikata nagatayo vachasam pravahai Naraditum purugunar adunapi pipru Kim toshtumar hati same harir ugrajate. One second, let me just... Oh, water's finished. Never mind. Prahlāda Maharaj prayed, How is it possible for me, who have been born in a family of asuras, to offer suitable prayers to satisfy the supremacy of Godhead? Even until now, all the demigods headed by Lord Brahma and all the saintly persons could not satisfy the Lord by the streams of excellent words. Although such persons are very qualified, being in the mode of goodness, then what is to be said of me? I am not at all qualified. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. A Vaishnav who is fully qualified to serve the Lord still thinks himself extremely low while offering prayers to the Lord. For example, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, the author of Chaitanya Charitamrita, says, Jagai madhai hoite mui se papishta, purusher kita hoite mui se laghishta. Thus he considers himself unqualified, lower than the worms in the stool, and more sinful than Jagai and Madhai. A pure Vaishnav actually thinks of himself in this way. Similarly, although Prahlāda Maharaj was a pure, exalted Vaishnav, he thought himself more unqualified to offer prayers to the Supreme Lord, most unqualified to offer prayers to the Supreme Lord. Mahajeno yena gata sapanta. Every pure Vaishnav should think like this. One should not be falsely proud of his Vaishnav qualifications. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has therefore instructed us, Trunarapi sunichena tarorapi sahishnana amanina manadena kirtaneya sadahai. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw on the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. Unless one is meek and humble, to make progress in spiritual life is very difficult. Mane dhana bijana rupa tapashuto jas teja prabhava bala purusha buddhi yoga naradhanaya hi bhavanti parasya pungso bhaktya tutosho bhagavan gajayutapaya. Prahlāda Maharaj continued, One may possess wealth, an aristocratic family, beauty, austerity, education, sensory expertise, luster, influence, physical strength, diligence, intelligence, and mystic yogic power. But I think that even by all these qualifications, one cannot satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. However, one can satisfy the Lord simply by devotional service. Gajendra did this, and thus the Lord was satisfied with him. Purport. No kind of material qualification is the means for satisfying the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, only by devotional service can the Lord be known. Bhaktyamam abhijanati. Unless the Lord is pleased by the service of a devotee, the Lord does not reveal himself. Naham prakasha sarvasya yoga maya samavrita. Bhagavad Gita 7:28. 25, sorry. This is the verdict of all Shastras. Neither by speculation nor by material qualifications can one understand or approach the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Oh, this is a famous verse. Very famous verse. Vipradvishar gunayutar aravindanabha padaravinda vimukhat swapacham varishtam manyetararpitam mano vachane hitata prana unati sakulam natu bhurimana. If a Brahman has all 12 of the Brahminical qualifications, as they are stated in the book called Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, but is not a devotee and is averse to the lotus feet of the Lord, he is certainly lower than a devotee who is a dog-eater, but who has dedicated everything, his mind, words, activities, wealth, and life, to the Supreme Lord. Such a devotee is better than such a Brahman, because the devotee can purify his whole family, whereas the so-called Brahman, in a position of false prestige, cannot purify even himself. And just one thing here, when it says a dog eater, I don't think it means it's a devotee eating dogs. It means he comes from a family of dog eaters, and he's done that. You know what I mean? Yeah, because of course we never see a devotee like that. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Here is a statement by Prahlāda Maharaj, one of the 12 authorities, regarding the distinction between a devotee and a Brahman expert in karma kanda, or Vedic ritualistic ceremonies. There are 4 varnas and 4 ashrams, which divide human society, but the central principle is to become a first-class pure devotee. It is said in Hari Bhakti Sudadoi, Bhagavad Bhakti Hinasya Jati Shastram Japastapa Apranasyaiva Dehasya Mandanam Lokaranjanam. If one is born in a high family like that of a Brahman, Kshatriya, or Vaishya, but is not a devotee of the Lord, all his good qualifications as a Brahman, Kshatriya, or Vaishya are null and void. Indeed, they are considered decorations. They are considered decorations of a dead body. In this verse, Prahlāda Maharaj speaks of the Vipras, the learned Brahmins. The learned Brahman is considered best among the divisions of Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. But a devotee born in a low Chandala family is better than such Brahmins, not to speak of the Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and others. A devotee is better than anyone, for he is in the transcendental position on the Brahman platform. Mam chayo vyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate sa gunan samatityaitan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. One who engages in full devotional service, who does not fall down in any circumstance, at once transcends the modes of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahman. Bhagavad Gita 14:27. The 12 qualifications of a first-class Brahman, as stated in the book called Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, are as follows. Jnanam cha satyam cha dhamma shrutam cha yamasaryam hristatikshana suya yagyaista chadanam cha dhriti samascha mahavrata dvadasha brahmanasya. The European and American devotees in the Krishna consciousness movement are sometimes accepted as Brahmins, but the so-called caste Brahmins are very much envious of them. In answer to such envy, Prahlāda Maharaj says that one who has been born in a Brahmin family but is falsely proud of his prestigious position cannot even purify himself, not to speak of his family. Whereas if a Chandal, a low-born person, is a devotee and is fully surrendered unto the lotus feet of the Lord, he can purify his entire family. We have had experience of how Americans and Europeans, because of their full Krishna consciousness, have purified their whole families, so much so that a mother of a devotee at the time of her death inquired about Krishna with her last breath. Wow, that's awesome. I wonder who that was. Therefore, it is theoretically true and has been practically proven that a devotee can give the best service to his family, his community, his society, and his nation. The foolish accuse a devotee of following the principle of escapism, but actually the fact is that a devotee is the right person to elevate his family. A devotee engages everything in the service of the Lord, and therefore he is always exalted. Naivatmana prabhurayam nijalabhapurna janara vidusha karuno vrinitnite yadyajjano bhagavate vidad vidadhitamanam tachatmane pratimukasya yata mukha shri. The Supreme Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is always fully satisfied in himself. Therefore, when something is offered to him, the offering, by the Lord's mercy, is for the benefit of the devotee, for the Lord does not need service from anyone. To give an example, if one's face is decorated, the reflection of one's face in a mirror is also seen to be decorated. Purport. In Bhakti Yoga, it is recommended that a devotee follow 9 principles: Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Nivedanam. This service of glorifying the Lord by hearing, chanting, and so on is not, of course, meant for the benefit of the Lord. This devotional service is recommended for the benefit of the devotee. I really like that point. It's the Lord's, we're never doing a favor for the Lord. We're never doing a favor for devotees when we serve them. It's actually all for our benefit, and it's their mercy towards us. So we should never be proud of any service that we're doing. We should just be grateful. The Lord is always glorious, whether the devotee glorifies him or not. But if the devotee engages in glorifying the Lord, the devotee himself automatically becomes glorious. Cheto darpanamarjanam bhava mahadavagni nirvapanam. By glorifying the Lord constantly, the entity becomes purified in the core of his heart, and thus he can understand that he does not belong to the material world, but is a spirit soul whose actual activity is to advance in Krishna consciousness, so that he may become free from the material clutches. Thus, the blazing fire of material existence is immediately extinguished. Bhava mahadavagni nirvapanam. A foolish person is amazed that Krishna orders, Sarva dhammam parityajam mamekam sharanam vraja, abandon all varieties of religious activities and just surrender unto me. Some foolish scholars even say that this is too much to demand. But this demand is not for the benefit of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, rather it is for the benefit of human society. If human beings individually and collectively surrender everything to the Supreme Personality of Godhead and full Krishna consciousness, all of human society will benefit. One who does not dedicate everything to the Supreme Lord is described in this avidusha, a rascal. In Bhagavad Gita 7.15, the Lord himself speaks in the same way. Namam dushkritino mudha prapadyante naradhama mayaya pahrita jnana asuram bhavamashrita. Those miscreants who are grossly foolish, lowest among mankind, whose knowledge is stolen by illusion, and who partake of the atheistic nature of demons, do not surrender unto me. Because of ignorance and misfortune, the atheists and the Naradhamas, the lowest of men, do not surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, although the Supreme Lord Krishna is full in himself, he appears in different yugas to demand the surrender of the conditioned souls so that they will benefit by becoming free of the material clutches. In conclusion, the more we engage in Krishna consciousness, and render service unto the Lord, the more we benefit. Krishna does not need service from any of us. Tasmaraham vigata viklava ishvarasya sarvatmana nahi grinami yata manisham nicho jaya guna visargamanu pravishta puyeta yena hipuman anuvarnitena. Therefore, although I was born in a demoniac family, I may, without a doubt, offer prayers to the Lord with full endeavor, as far as my intelligence allows. Anyone who has been forced by ignorance to enter the material world may be purified of material life if he offers prayers to the Lord and hears the Lord's glories. Purport. It is clearly understood that a devotee does not need to be born in a very high family to be rich, to be aristocratic, or to be very beautiful. None of these qualifications will engage one in devotional. With devotion, one should feel, God is great, and I am very small. Therefore, my duty is to offer prayers to the Lord. Only on this basis can one understand and render service to the Lord, as the Lord says in Bhagavad Gita 18:55. Bhaktyamam abhijanati yavanyaschasmi tatvata tato mam tatuto gyatva vishate tar anantaram. One can understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead as He is only by devotional service. And when one is in full consciousness of the Supreme Lord by such devotion, he can enter into the kingdom of God. Thus, Prahlāda Maharaj decided to offer his best prayers to the Lord without consideration of his material position. Sarve hyami vidikarastava sattva dhamno pramadayo vayami veshana chodvijanta Kshemaya Uttaya Utatma Kaya Chasya Vikriditam Bhagavato Ruchiravatārai. O my Lord, all the demigods, headed by Lord Brahma, are sincere servants of your Lordship, who are situated in a transcendental position. Therefore, they are not like us, Prahlāda and his father, the demon Hiranyakashipu. Your appearance in this fearsome form is your pastime for your own pleasure. Such an incarnation is always meant for the protection and improvement of the universe. Purport. Prahlāda wanted to assert that his father and the other members of his family were all unfortunate because they were demoniac, whereas the devotees of the Lord are always fortunate because they are always ready to follow the orders of the Lord. When the Supreme Lord appears in this material world in his various incarnations, he performs two functions, being the devotees and vanquishing the demons. Paritranaya sadhanam vinashaya chadushkritam. Lord Nṛsiṁha-deva, for example, appeared for the protection of his devotee. Such pastimes as those of Nṛsiṁha-deva are certainly not meant to create a fearful situation for the devotees, but nonetheless, the devotees, being very simple and faithful, were afraid of the fierce incarnation of the Lord. Therefore, Prahlāda Maharaj, in the following prayer, requests the Lord to give up his anger. Taryachamanyumasurascha hatashtvadhyaya. Oh my God, what's wrong with me? Tvayadya modeta sadurapi vrishchika sarpahatya. Lokascha nirvritamita pratiyanti sarve rupam Nṛsiṁha-vibhayaya janasmaranti. My Lord Nṛsiṁha-deva, please therefore cease your anger now that my father, the great demon Hiranyakashipu, has been killed. Since even saintly persons take pleasure in the killing of a scorpion or a snake, all the worlds have achieved great satisfaction because of the death of this demon. Now they are confident of their happiness, and they will always remember your auspicious incarnation in order to be free from fear. Purport. The most important point in this verse is that although saintly persons never desire the killing of any living entity, they take pleasure in the killing of envious living entities like snakes and scorpions. Hiranyakashipu was killed because he was worse than a snake or a scorpion, and therefore everyone is happy. Now there was no need for the Lord to be angry. The devotees can always remember the form of Nṛsiṁha-deva when they are in danger, and therefore the appearance of Nṛsiṁha-deva was not at all inauspicious. The Lord's appearance is always worshipable and auspicious for all sane persons and devotees. Naham bibhemya jitate bhayanakasya jivarka netra bhrukuti rabhaso gradhangshtarat antra srajakshata jakshe keshara shankukarnan nirhradabhita digibhar aribhin nakagrat. My Lord, who are never conquered by anyone, I am certainly not afraid of your ferocious mouth and tongue, your eyes bright like the sun, or your frowning eyebrows. I do not fear your sharp, pinching teeth, your garland of intestines, your mane soaked with blood, or your high wedge-like ears. Nor do I fear your tumultuous roaring, which makes elephants flee to distant places, or your nails, which are meant to kill your enemies. Purport. Lord Nṛsiṁha-deva's fierce appearance was certainly most dangerous for the non-devotees, but for Prahlāda Maharaj, such a fearful appearance was not at all disturbing. The lion is very fearsome for other animals, but its cubs are not at all afraid of the lion. The water of the sea is certainly dreadful for all living entities on the land, but within the sea, even the small fish is unafraid. Why? Because the small fish has taken shelter of the big ocean. It is said that although great elephants are taken away by the flooding waters of the river, the small fish swim opposite the current. Therefore, although the Lord sometimes fierce appearance to kill the Dushkritis, the devotees worship him. Keshavadrita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Hare. The devotee always takes pleasure in worshipping the Lord and glorifying the Lord in any form, either pleasing or fierce. Trastosmyaham kripana vatsaladu sahogra sangsara chakra kadanar grasatam pranita baddha sakarma birushattamate grismulam prito pavarga sharanam. How do you say that? Oh God, my God. Sharanam yase kadanu. Okay, that's not. Oh, most powerful, insurmountable, who are kind to the fallen souls. I have been put into the association of demons as a result of my activities, and therefore I am very much afraid of my condition of life within this material world. When will that moment come when you will call me to the shelter of your lotus feet, which are the ultimate goal for liberation from conditional life? Purport. Being in the material world is certainly miserable, but certainly when one is put into the association of asuras or atheistic men, it is intolerably so. One may ask why the living entity is put into the material world. Indeed, sometimes foolish people deride the Lord for having put them there. For having put them here. Actually, everyone is put into conditional life according to his karma. Therefore, Prahlāda Maharaj, representing all the other conditioned souls, admits that he was put into life among the asuras because of the results of his karma. The Lord is Kripana Vatsala. Interesting. Because he is extremely kind to the conditioned souls. Kripana usually means miser, doesn't it? Miser. Okay, I guess there's other meanings of it. Okay. It does mean miserly, but there's also other meanings. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, therefore, The Lord appears whenever there are discrepancies in the execution of religious principles. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata tatatmanam sajamyaham. The Lord is extremely anxious to deliver the conditioned souls, and therefore He instructs all of us home back to Godhead. Sarvadama Prityaja Mamikam Sharanam Vraja. Thus Prahlāda Maharaj expected that the Lord by his kindness would call him again to the shelter of his lotus feet. In other words, everyone should be eager to return home back to Godhead, taking shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, and thus being fully trained in Krishna consciousness. Yasmat priya priya viyoga samyoga janma shokagnina sakala yoni shuddhayamana dukkaushadam tarapi dukkamatadhyaham bhumam pramami vadame tavadasya yogam. O Great One, O Supreme Lord, because of combination with pleasing and displeasing circumstances, and because of sin from them, one is placed in a most regrettable position within heavenly or hellish planets, as if burning in a fire of lamentation. Although there are many remedies by which to get out of miserable life, any such remedies in the material world are more miserable than the miseries themselves. Therefore, I think that the only remedy is to engage in your service. Kindly instruct me in such service. Purport. Prahlāda Maharaj aspired to engage in the service of the lotus feet of the Lord. After the death of his father, who was materially very opulent, Prahlāda would have inherited his father's property, which extended throughout the world. But Prahlāda Maharaj was not inclined to accept such material opulence, for whether one is in the heavenly or hellish planets, or is a rich or poor man's son, material conditions are everywhere. Therefore, no condition of life is at all pleasing. If one wants the uncontaminated pleasure of life, he must engage himself in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Material opulence may be somewhat pleasing for the time being, but to come to that temporary pleasing condition, one must work extremely hard. When a poor man is rich, he may be better situated, but to come to that position, he had to accept many miseries. The fact is that in material life, whether one is miserable or happy, both conditions are miserable. If one actually wants happy, blissful life, one must become Krishna conscious and constantly engage in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. That is the real remedy. The entire world is under the illusion that people will be happy by advancing in materialistic measures to counteract the miseries of conditional life. But this attempt will never be successful. Humanity must be trained to engage in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. That is the purpose of the Krishna consciousness movement. There can be no happiness in changing the conditions, for everywhere there is trouble and misery. Soham priyasya surida paradevataya lila katastava Nṛsiṁha-virincha gita anjastitarmyanugrinan guna vipramukto durgani te padayugalaya hangsa sangha. O my Lord Nṛsiṁha-deva, by engaging in your transcendental loving service in the association of devotees who are liberated souls, who are hangsas, I shall become completely uncontaminated by the association of the three modes of material nature and be able to chant the glories of your Lordship, who are so dear to me. I shall chant your glories, following exactly in the footsteps of Lord Brahma and his disciplic succession. In this way, I shall undoubtedly be able to cross the ocean of nescience. Purport. A devotee's life and duty are very well explained herein. As soon as a devotee can chant the holy name and glories of the Supreme Lord, he certainly comes to the liberated position. Attachment for glorifying the Lord by hearing and chanting the holy name and activities of the Lord, Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu, certainly brings one to the position where material contamination is absent. One should chant the bona fide songs received from disciplic succession. In Bhagavad Gita, it is said that the chanting is powerful when one follows the disciplic succession. evam para praptam imam rajashayo vidu. Manufacturing many ways of chanting will never be effective. However, chanting the song or the narration left by the previous acharyas, Mahajano Yena Gatasa Panta, is extremely effective, and this is very easy. Therefore, in this verse, Prahlāda Maharaj uses the word anja. Accepting the thoughts of exalted authorities through disciplic succession is certainly much easier than the method of mental speculation, by which one tries to invent some means to understand the absolute truth. The best process is to accept the instruction of the previous acharyas and follow them. Then, God realization and self-realization become extremely easy. By following this easy method, one is liberated from the contamination of the material modes of nature, and thus one can certainly cross the ocean of nescience, in which there are many miserable conditions. By following in the footsteps of the great acharyas, one associates with the hangsas or paramahangsas, those who are completely freed from material contamination. Indeed, by following the instructions of the acharyas, one is always freed from all material contamination, and thus one's life becomes successful, for one reaches the goal of life. This material world is miserable, regardless of one's standard of life. Of this there is no doubt. Attempts to mitigate the miseries of material existence by material methods will never be successful. One must take to Krishna consciousness to become really happy. Otherwise, happiness is impossible. One might say that becoming advanced in spiritual life also involves tapasya, voluntary acceptance of some inconvenience. However, such inconvenience is not as dangerous as material attempts to mitigate all miseries. Wow, that was a beautiful purport. I want to save that actually. That is 9:18. 7, 9:19. I'll just put it in here. Where should I put it? I'll put it here. Sorry, 1 second. Okay. Balasya neha sharanam pitaro Nṛsiṁha nartasya cha gatam udanvatima jato no taptasya tat pratividhir ya ihanjaseshtas tvar vibhotanu pritam tar upekshitan tavar vibhotanu pritam tar upekshitanam. My Lord Nṛsiṁha-deva, O Supreme, because of a bodily conception of life, souls neglected and not cared for by you cannot do anything for their betterment. Whatever remedies they accept, although perhaps temporarily beneficial, are certainly impermanent. For example, a father and mother cannot protect their child, a physician and medicine cannot relieve a suffering patient, and a boat on the ocean cannot protect a drowning man. Purport. Through parental care, through remedies for different kinds of disease, and through means of protection on the water, in the air, and on the land, there is always an endeavor for relief from various kinds of suffering in the material world, but none of them are guaranteed measures for protection. They may be beneficial temporarily, but they afford no permanent benefit. The presence of a father and mother, a child could not be protected from accidental death, disease, and various other miseries. No one can help, including the parents. Ultimately, the shelter is the Lord, and one who takes shelter of the Lord is protected. This is guaranteed. As the Lord says in Bhagavad Gita 9:31, Konteya pratijanihi name bhakta pranashyati. O son of Kunti, declare it boldly that my devotee never perishes. Therefore, unless one is protected by the mercy of the Lord, no remedial measure can act effectively. One should consequently depend fully on the causeless mercy of the Lord. Although as a matter of routine duty, one must, of course, accept other remedial measures, no one can protect one who is neglected by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In this material world, everyone is trying to counteract the onslaught of nature, but everyone is ultimately fully controlled by material nature. Therefore, even though so-called philosophers and scientists try to surmount the onslaught of material nature, they have not been able to do so. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 13:9 that the real sufferings of the material world are four: Janma, Mritu, Jara, Vyadhi, birth, death, old age, and disease. In the history of the world, no one has been successful in conquering these miseries imposed by material nature. Prakrite kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvasha. Nature, Prakriti, is so strong that no one can overcome her stringent laws. So-called scientists, philosophers, religionists, and politicians should therefore conclude that they cannot offer facilities to the people in general. They should make vigorous propaganda to awaken the populace and raise them to the platform of Krishna consciousness. Our humble attempt to create the Krishna consciousness movement all over the world is the only remedy that can bring about a peaceful and happy life. We can never be happy without the mercy of the Supreme Lord. Tvad upekshitanam. If we keep displeasing our Supreme Father, we shall never be happy within this material world, in either the upper or lower planetary systems. Yasmin yato yarhiyena chadyasya yasmad, yasmayatayad, utayastapara parova, bhava karoti vikaroti pratak svabhava, sanchodhitas tarakilam bhavata swarupam. My dear Lord, everyone in this material world is under the modes of material nature, being influenced by goodness and ignorance. Everyone, from the greatest personality, Lord Brahma, down to the small ant, works under the influence of these modes. Therefore, everyone in this material world is influenced by your energy. The cause for which they work, the place where they work, the time when they work, the matter due to which they work, the goal of life they have considered final, and the process for obtaining this goal, all are nothing but manifestations of your energy. Indeed, since the energy and energetic are identical, all of them are but manifestations of you. Purport. Whether one thinks himself protected by his parents, by the government, by some place, or by some other cause, everything is due to the various potencies of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Everything that is done, whether in the higher, middle, or lower planetary systems, is due to the supervision or control of this Lord. It is therefore said, Karmana daivanetrena jantur deho papattaye. The Supreme Person, that's Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam 3:31:1. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Supersoul within the core of everyone's heart, gives inspirations for action according to one's mentality. All these mentalities are merely facilities given by Krishna to the person acting. Bhagavad Gita therefore says, Matta smritir gyanam apohanam cha. Bhagavad Gita 15:15. Everyone works according to the inspiration given by the Supersoul. Because everyone has a different goal of life, everyone acts differently, as guided by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The word Yasmin yato yarhi yena siyasya yasmat indicates that all activities, whatever they may be, are but different features of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. All of them are created by the living entity and fulfilled by the mercy of the Lord. Although such activities are non-different from the Lord nonetheless directs. Sarva dharma parityaja mamekam sharanam vraja. He directs, give up all other duties and surrender unto me. When we accept this direction from the Lord, we can actually become happy. As long as we work according to our material senses, we are in material life. But as soon as we act according to the real transcendental direction of the Lord, our position is spiritual. The activities of bhakti, devotional service, are directed under the control of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Narad Pancharatra states, Sarvapadi vinirmuktam tat paratvena nirmilam hrishikena hrishikesha sevanam bhaktiruchyate. When one gives up materially designated positions and works directly under the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one's spiritual life is revived. This is described as sarvavastiti, being situated in one's original constitutional position. This is the real description of mukti, or liberation from material bondage. So we finished our reading, but I think I'm going to just continue reading because we still have some more time. And it would be really cool, actually, if we probably won't get to 22. Anyways, I'm just going to read this. Maya manasrajati karma mayam baliya kalena chodita gunanumatena pungsa chando mayam yarajayar pita sodasharam sangsara chakram ajako atitaret tvaranya. O Lord, O Supreme Eternal, by expanding your plenary portion, you have created the subtle bodies of the living entities to the aid of your external energy, which is agitated by time. Thus the mind entraps the living entity in unlimited varieties of desires to be fulfilled by the Vedic directions of karma kanda, fruit of activity, and the 16 elements. Who can get free from this entanglement unless he takes shelter at your lotus feet? Purport. If the hand of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is present in everything, where is the question of being liberated from material engagements to spiritual blissful life? Indeed, it is a fact that Krishna is the source of everything, as we understand from Krishna himself in Bhagavad Gita, Aham Sarvasya Prabhava. All the activities in both the spiritual and material world are certainly conducted by the orders of the Supreme Personality of Godhead through the agency of either the material or spiritual nature. As further confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 9.10, Maya dakshena prakriti suyate sacharacharam. Without the direction of the Supreme Lord, material nature cannot do anything. It cannot act independently. Therefore, in the beginning, the living entity wanted to enjoy the material energy, and to give the living entity all facility, Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, created this material world and gave the living entity the facility to concoct different ideas and plans through the mind. These facilities offered by the Lord to the living entity constitute the 16 kinds of perverted support in terms of the knowledge-gathering senses, the working senses, the mind, and the 5 material elements. The wheel of repeated birth and death is created by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but to direct the bewildered living entity in progress toward liberation according to varied stages of advancement, different directions are given in the Vedas, Chando Mayam. If one wants to be elevated to the higher planetary systems, he may follow the Vedic directions, as the Lord states in Bhagavad Gita 9.25, Yanti deva vrata devan pitrin yanti pitri vrata bhutani yanti bhuteja yanti mad yajino pimam. Worship the demigods will take birth among the demigods. Those who worship ghosts and spirits will take birth among such beings. Those who worship ancestors go to the ancestors, and those who worship me will live with me. The real purpose of the Vedas is to direct one back home, back to Godhead. But the living entity, not knowing the real goal of life, wants to go sometimes here and sometimes there, and do sometimes this and sometimes that. In this way, he wanders throughout the entire universe, imprisoned in various species of and thus engaging in various activities for which he must suffer the reactions. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu therefore says, Brahmanda Brahmite kon bhagyavana jeev, Guru Krishna prasade pai bhakti lata bij. The fallen, conditioned living entity, trapped by the external energy, loiters in the material world. But if by good fortune he meets a bona fide representative of the Lord who gives him the seed of devotional service, and if he takes advantage of such a guru, or representative of God, receives the bhakti lata bij, the seed of devotional service. If he properly cultivates Krishna consciousness, he is then gradually elevated to the spiritual world. The ultimate conclusion is that one must surrender to the principles of bhakti yoga, for then one will gradually attain liberation. No other method of liberation from the material struggle is at all possible. Oh God. Okay, I'm just going to read this verse, but not the purport. Satvam hinitya vijatma guna sadhamna skalo vashikrita visrija visarga shakti chakre visrishtam ajayeshvarasho dashare nishpidyamanam upakarsha vibho prapannam. My dear Lord, O great, you have created this material world of 16 constituents, but you are transcendental to their material qualities. In other words, these material qualities are under your full control, and you are never conquered by them. Therefore, the time element is your representation. My Lord, O Supreme, no one can conquer you. As for me, however, I am being crushed by the wheel of time, and therefore I surrender fully unto you. Now kindly take me under the protection of your lotus feet. Oh, can I just read this? I know it's 8, but I just want to read this one last purport, because then we finish this section, actually. I'm going to just read it. I'll read it quick. Purport. The wheel of material miseries is also a creation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but he is not under the control of the material energy. Rather, he is the controller of the material energy, whereas we, the living entities, are under its control. When we give up our constitutional position, Jivera Surupa Hoy Krishna Das, the Supreme Personality of Godhead creates this material energy and her influence over the conditioned soul. Therefore, he is the Supreme, and only he can deliver the conditioned soul from the onslaught of material nature. Mam eva ye prapantente, mayam etan tarantite. Bhagavad Gita 7:14. Maya, the external energy, continuously imposes upon the conditioned souls the suffering of the threefold miseries of this material world. Therefore, in the previous verse, Prahlāda Maharaj prayed to the Lord, "But for your lordship, no one can save me." Prahlāda Maharaj has also explained that a child's protectors, his parents, cannot save the child from the onslaught of birth and death, nor can medicine and a physician save one from death, nor can a boat or similar means of protection save a person from drowning in the water, for everything is controlled by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, the suffering humanity must surrender to Krishna, as Krishna himself demands the last instruction of Bhagavad Gita 1866. Sarvadhamma parityajam sharanam vraja aham tam sarva papebhyo mokshayishami ma sucha. Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reaction. Do not fear. All human society must take advantage of this offer and thus be saved by Krishna from the danger of being crushed by the wheel of time, the wheel of past, present, and future. The word nishpidyamanam, being crushed, is very significant. Every living entity in the material condition is actually being crushed again and again, and to be saved from this position, one must take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then one will be happy. The word prapanam is also very significant, for unless one fully surrenders to the Supreme Lord, one cannot be saved from being crushed. A criminal is put in prison and is punished by the government. But the same government, if it likes, can release the criminal from imprisoned life. Similarly, we must know conclusively that our material condition of suffering has been allotted to us by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and if we want to be saved from the suffering, we must appeal to the same controller. Thus, one can be saved from this material condition. Only 3 minutes over time. Namaste Nṛsiṁhaya Prahlāda Dayine Hiranyakashipurvakshaha Silatankanakalaye Ito Nṛsiṁho Parato Nṛsiṁho Yato Yamitato Nṛsiṁho Bahye Nṛsiṁho Hridaye Nṛsiṁho Nṛsiṁha-deva Sharanam Prapade Karakamalavare Nako Autashringam Dalita Hiranyakashipo Tano Bringa Keshavadrita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare जय जगदीश हरे केशवद्रेता नरहरि रूप जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे निताय गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल निताय गौर हरि बोल निताय गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल निताय हरि बोल। जय श्री गुरु गौरांग गंधाविक गिरिधारी श्री श्री राधा विनोद बिहारी जू की जय। श्री गोविंद गोपीनाथ मरण मोहन जू की जय। नितिल प्रविष्ट विष्णुपाद अष्टतर शतस्मात् श्रील भक्ति वेदांत नारायण गोसाई महाराज श्रील गुरुदेव की जय। नितिल प्रविष्ट विष्णुपाद अष्टतर शतस्मात् श्रील भक्ति वेदांत वामन गोसाई महाराज की जय। नितिल प्रविष्ट विष्णुपाद अष्टतर शतस्मात् श्रील भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी महाराज श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। नितिल प्रविष्ट विष्णुपाद अष्टतर शतस्मात् श्रील भक्ति प्रज्ञान केशव गोसाई महाराज की जय। नितिल प्रविष्ट विष्णुपाद अष्टतर शतस्मात् श्रील भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोसाई प्रभुपाद की जय। नितिल प्रविष्ट महाभागवत श्रील गोक्षरस बाबूजी महाराज की जय। नितिल प्रविष्ट श्रील सच्चिदानंद भक्ति विनोद ठाकुर की जय। नितिल प्रविष्ट वैष्णव श्रील जगन्नाथ दास बाबूजी महाराज की जय। श्री रूप गौरिय गुरु वार्ग की जय। श्री रूप सनातन भट्ट रघुनाथ श्री जीव गोपाल भट्ट दास रघुनाथ शार गोसाई प्रभु की जय। श्री स्वरूप दामोदर राय रामानंदारी श्री गौर प्रसाद वृंद की जय। नामाचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासरी गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री क्षेत्र मंडल गौर मंडल ब्रज मंडल मथुरा वृंदावन धाम की जय। सर्व अभिष्ट प्रदात गिरिराज महाराज की जय। श्री राधा कुंड श्याम कुंड की जय। श्री यमुना देवी गंगा देवी की जय। श्री तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी की जय। श्री भक्ति देवी की जय। श्री पूर्णमासी योगमाया की जय। श्री गोपेश्वर महादेव की जय। नितिल प्रविष्ट विष्णुपाद अष्टतर शतस्मात् श्रील भक्ति वल्लभ तीर्थ गोसाई महाराज की जय। नितिल प्रविष्ट विष्णुपाद श्रील भक्ति दैत माधव गोसाई महाराज की जय। नितिल प्रविष्ट श्रील भक्ति प्रमोद पुरी गोसाई महाराज की जय। स्वापाशाद श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। श्री नृसिंह भगवान की जय। भक्त प्रभा श्री प्रहलाद महाराज की जय। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद्-भागवतम की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। समागत गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्रीनिताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। वृंदाय तुलसी देवाय प्रियाय केशवाय च कृष्ण भक्ति प्रददेवी सत्यवताय नमो नमः। वंशकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। Dandava pranams everybody. Hari Bol. See you all tomorrow.